It was a warm June morning in 2001 when the unthinkable happened inside a quiet suburban home in Houston, Texas. At first glance, everything seemed normal. Birds chirped, lawns were being mowed. But inside 942 Beachcomber Lane, death was unfolding, one child at a time. Andrea Yates, a mother of 5, walked calmly to the phone and dialed 911. "I just killed my kids," she said. The dispatcher paused. "Excuse me?" "All 5 of them," Andrea repeated. By the time officers arrived, the home had fallen deathly still. The front door creaked open. A stench of chlorine and something else, something darker, hit the responding officer like a wall. The smell of crime, raw and recent. The house was silent. Too silent. Inside the master bathroom, they found the first child, floating, eyes open, lifeless. In the guest bathroom tub, more children, little bodies, still warm. 5 children, Noah, John, Paul, Luke, and Mary, ages 6 months to 7 years, all drowned by the woman who gave them life. The scene was clinical, almost ritualistic, a systematic slaughter by someone who once kissed their bruises and sang lullabies. When the officers turned to Andrea, she sat on the couch, wet, expressionless. Her eyes were empty, as if her soul had vacated her body hours earlier. "They were not right," she said. "I had to save them. From what? From whom?" The horror sent shockwaves across the nation. Andrea Yates was not a monster, at least not in the way people expected. She was a former nurse, a straight-A student, a loving wife, a devout Christian. She had once been vibrant, filled with hope, but something had gone terribly wrong. Years before the killings, Andrea began suffering from postpartum depression, then psychosis. Her husband, Rusty Yates, had insisted they keep having children, believing more faith would cure her mental state. It didn't. Andrea had been hospitalized, prescribed powerful antipsychotics. Her doctor warned against having more children. Still, her illness was dismissed, treated like a moral weakness instead of a deadly disease. She had attempted suicide. Twice. She had begged for help, cried in silence, fought unseen demons in the darkness of her mind, and still, no one truly listened. On June 20th, 2001, after Rusty left for work and her mother-in-law canceled her visit, Andrea filled the bathtub. One by one, she brought her children in, held them, and pressed them under. There was no struggle, no screams, only bubbles and silence. When she got to Mary, the youngest, she hesitated. But it was already too late. She had crossed a line no one could return from. She laid Mary's body on the bed, wrapped in a blanket, as if tucking her in for a nap. And then, she called 911. The crime was methodical, intentional, and yet it was driven by madness. Detectives would later describe the house as eerily sterile. There were no signs of a struggle, no screams were reported. The children had gone quietly, as if they'd trusted the hands that drowned them. In the interrogation room, Andrea remained eerily calm. "Satan is inside me," she muttered. "He wants my children." When asked why she didn't stop, she said, "Because I knew they'd go to hell if I didn't do it. I had to save them." Her statements shocked even the most seasoned detectives. This was not just a crime, it was, in her mind, a twisted act of salvation. In court, Andrea's defense centered on mental illness. She believed Satan had taken hold of her children, that killing them was the only way to save them from eternal damnation. She was calm in her belief, unshaken even as the photos of her drowned children were shown to the jury. The public was divided. Some wanted vengeance. Others saw a broken system that failed a deeply ill woman. Prosecutors painted her as a cold-blooded killer. The defense showed a woman crumbling under years of ignored psychosis. The jury convicted her of murder, life in prison, but the verdict didn't hold. 2 years later, her conviction was overturned due to erroneous testimony by a prosecution witness. a retrial was ordered. This time, the truth was impossible to ignore. Andrea Yates was found not guilty by reason of insanity and committed to a high-security mental hospital in Kerrville, Texas, where she remains to this day. The retrial brought even more chilling details. Rusty Yates, her husband, admitted he left Andrea alone with the children despite medical warnings. Her psychiatrist had told him she was psychotic and a danger to herself and others. On the day of the murders, Rusty went to work believing she'd be okay alone for an hour. But in that hour, 5 lives were lost. Her case sparked national debates about postpartum psychosis, the failings of the mental health system, and the crushing expectations placed on mothers. She wasn't evil, she was broken, and the world didn't listen until it was too late. 5 children, 1 bathtub, a silence so loud it still echoes through time. If you or someone you know is struggling with postpartum depression or psychosis, please just seek help. This wasn't just a tragedy. It was a crime committed in the shadows of untreated illness. It was murder. But it was also a cry for help, one that came too late. 5 lives lost, 1 mind shattered, a justice system forced to ask, what is the true cost of silence? Share this story. Break the silence. Subscribe for more real cases that go beyond the headlines. Comment your thoughts. Was Andrea a killer or another victim? Because sometimes, the greatest horrors hide behind the calmest eyes.